Okay, so once you have your image figured out on the 6x9 paper, you're ready to transfer it to your foam stamp. I'm going to be pretty particular about giving you your foam stamp because I want to make sure that I have enough for everyone, so you just get one of those. So once you're ready, you'll bring up your sketch, I'll take a look at it, and I'm going to put the foam underneath and try to figure out where your name should be. It's going to be kind of on the back of your animal. So I'll flip it over, and I'm going to use a Sharpie to put your name about where your animal is. And I'm going to ask everyone to just spell their name so that I don't spell it wrong, and I'll write your class code on there as well. Now what you'll do when you are up there is you'll go ahead and grab 5 sheets of white paper. These are going to be the pieces of paper that we make our impressions on once we stamp our images. So I'm going to be writing my name on all 5 pieces. This is really important that you don't forget to put your name on here before you go over to the inking station, because otherwise when you get back to your seat you won't have any paper to print on. Also make sure that you put your pieces in a place so that you know where they are. Someone else's paper might get confused with yours, so set those other people's papers in a spot where you won't get confused. Now, I'm going to set the paper there. Now I'm ready to transfer my image. So I'm going to peel off some tape, and I'm going to tape my image to the foam. So I'm just going to put a little piece on the short side there, like this, and a small piece on the short side here, this end, so it doesn't move around while I'm transferring the image. Transferring the image is fairly easy. Basically, all you have to do is use kind of a dull pencil. A really sharp one doesn't work as well. And you just have to press over your lines, redrawing your image like so. What this will do is make a copy of your image on the piece of foam beneath it. Now, it doesn't make a very hard, deep line, so after I get the main idea on there, I'll have to look at my image and maybe trace some of the lines again so they're nice and deep. Now, I just messed it up. You know what? You don't want to trace every single detail today. You really only want to trace the background lines and the outside edges, because what we're going to do is something called a reduction print. So we're going to be stamping a few colors today on the 5 sheets of paper, and then next time we're going to add other details to our stamp. So you don't have to actually draw every single detail today. So I'm not going to trace the stripes on the tail, and I'm not going to add any texture on my trees. I'm just going to draw the outlines of things. Keep it kind of simple today. You know what I am going to do though? I'm going to add some snowballs. Anything that you want to stay white, you'll want to press in today. Otherwise, it won't be white later because we're going to be doing several different layers. So I'm going to put a little highlight on the nose, a little reflection inside the eye, and then I think I'm going to make his snout white. So I'm going to go ahead and carve that in. Now, traditionally, whenever I would say carve, in other types of printmaking, you would actually use a tool to carve away wood. This is a piece of linoleum that I used a special tool on to carve away the pieces that I didn't want. Other types of stamping like this is a foam stamp where when you stamp, all of the lines are where you put the ink. In our image, everywhere that we put the ink is going to be the colored part. So it's kind of difficult to think about in terms of, I want this stuff that I'm going to retrace now to stay white. Ooh, it's kind of hard to see. So I'm just going to look at that a little closer. Press my lines in a little deeper. Remember, a dull pencil works best for this. Don't want to mess it up. There's his nose. So everything around that I want to stay white. So I'm going to go ahead and press it in, color it in, do a little highlight on the nose, a little highlight in the eyes. And then I'm going to do the outline of my raccoon. So I'm just making everything a little deeper. If I don't do this, then what ends up happening is the ink settles into the lines and my image won't show up. Now, printmaking is the kind of thing where you actually kind of, once you get everything drawn on here, you'll have to work kind of quickly because you're doing what's kind of like stamping. And if you have ever done stamping before, you know the ink dries after a few seconds. So you can't just put the ink on there and expect it to print every single time. You have to re-ink each time or work quickly. Okay, so a few little snowflakes. Now, I've got my name on my paper, I've got my image carved. I'm gonna do a little white right in here inside the eyes. And I still have a few details I'm gonna add. I'll do that later. So I'm gonna go over to the printing station. Let me show you where that is. So when you go to the printing station, you'll see that there are 3 colors: light green, light blue, light purple. We're gonna do one at a time. So I'm gonna lay my foam plate right where it said foam plate, and I'm gonna take this, it's called a brayer. A brayer is a rolling tool that you can use to put a thin layer of ink on your foam plate. Now, if the brayer has kind of dried, which it usually does between classes, you'll want to roll it in the ink and then turn it and roll it the other way, because you want to get that brayer to roll so that it puts a coating all over it. Sometimes you have to really roll it kind of with a little bit of pressure at first to get it going. Now, after a few kids have used it, it's not as difficult to get going. Okay, so now I should have a pretty thin layer on there, and I'm ready to ink up my plate. So I'm going to roll this over the surface of the plate like this, and I'm going vertically, and then I'm going to spread it out horizontally as well. Ooh, that's kind of hard to see. Okay, so let me get a little more. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to take the plate carefully over to my spot. I'm going to set it down. Set the camera down. I'm doing a lot of things at once here, guys. Now I'm going to grab my first piece of paper, and I'm going to set it on top like this. I'm going to gently rub the back so that I get the corners really good. And then whenever I peel it off, I'll see if I have enough ink or too much ink. And this one looks a little bit light. It looks like I should have put a little more ink on there. So you're going to repeat this process over again. So keep every print that you make. I'm going to set this one in the drying rack here in just a second. And I'm going to go back over with my print, or my ink, my plate, I guess is what it's called, and I'm going to ink it up, and this time I can use a new color if I want to, or I can do another green one. You're going to make 5 prints today, and then next time we'll put a second color on top of each of those stamped prints.